takes more than good tools.
It takes someone who can tell good stories, who can simplify the complicated,
Experiment with the expected.
inspire the uninspired.
Explore the unexplored.
Excite the body.
Engineer new hands. Hands that wave hello.
Mentor the mavericks.
Make sense of the nonsensical.
Connect with cultures far away.
While staying close to those nearby.
It takes more than tools to make a classroom special. It takes a teacher.
Welcome to Education on Air. Thanks for joining. There are people tuning in from 175 countries around the world. Today, we'll be celebrating educators, discussing practical ideas for innovating in schools, and exploring the future of education and technology. To make learning work for everyone, it takes a teacher. It takes a teacher to open up new possibilities in young minds, to inspire the future, to explore the unexplored. Today, you'll hear from inspiring keynote speakers including Eric Schmidt, Jill Biden, Johanna Hayes, and Linda Darling-Hammond on topics such as the importance of engaging communities, measuring the impact of technology in the classroom, teaching skills of the future, plus so much more. After the keynote talks, you'll get tips and tools in the breakout sessions led by educators for educators. Here are some tips to make sure you have a successful education on air. Make sure you're in a comfy spot. Turn your volume up. Don't worry if you can't catch all the sessions. They will all be available on demand beginning tomorrow. Join the conversation. Use the hashtag Google EduOnAir on social media. Use the live Q&A feature below the video stream during the keynote and breakout sessions. So let's get going.
Welcome to Education on Air. When I was first in college, I met a professor who just somehow always explained it so perfectly. He not only inspired me, but I remember taking notes, and the whiteboard, which was a blackboard at the time, was so perfectly laid out, and I learned so much. He inspired me so much. That same professor, Jeffrey Ullman, was the faculty member who inspired Larry and Sergey 20 years later. You think teachers matter? Teachers matter a lot. If you think about what we're here to do today is to replicate that experience, that incredibly unique and inspirational experience that I had in a small classroom for every single person on the entire world. We can do that with technology now, and that's what we're all going to make happen.
Hi everyone, I'm Jill Biden. As a lifelong educator, I know from experience that while teaching is rewarding, it can also be challenging. Even on your most trying of days, you're there for your students, for your colleagues, for your community. You support one another. You lift up one another. So I believe it's important to thank teachers for everything they do. That's why I've used my platform as Second Lady of the United States to support all teachers and to encourage incredible people like you. Because you are so vital to our kids, our communities, and the future of our countries. I always say that one of my favorite things about teachers is that we are all lifelong learners. We're always curious to know more, especially when it could increase the impact we have in our classrooms, the impact we have on our students. Take this online conference, for example, packed with thousands of teachers from all around the world who have worked all week and who now choose to spend their weekend listening to another teacher speak, learning how to expand the tools and techniques they can use in their own classroom. That's what teachers do. That's what we do. But being a teacher isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We take this responsibility home with us every single night. Teaching doesn't end when you walk out of the classroom. We're invested in our students and their future. We cajole, we counsel, we mentor. We do whatever it takes to make that connection, to give our students the confidence they need to succeed in school and beyond. Thank you for everything you do in your classrooms, in your communities, and for your students, and for the future of our country and our world. Enjoy the conference, and I hope you have a great school year.
Hi, I'm John King, U.S. Secretary of Education. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you today about the important role of education in preparing our students for civic engagement. Before I begin, I want to deliver the most important message of the day to the educators who are watching this. Thank you. I'm the son of two lifelong educators. My dad was a teacher and principal, and my mom was a school counselor. But by the time I was 12, both of my parents had passed away, and school became my safe haven. New York City public school teachers literally saved my life. While home was unstable, inconsistent, and even scary, they made school a place that was interesting, challenging, and rewarding. They led me on the journey I continue today, a journey that took me through a career as a high school social studies teacher and middle school principal, and into state and federal government. As a teacher, and now as secretary, a subject I've always cared deeply about has always been the importance of civic education as part of a well-rounded education. When we think about the responsibilities of citizens, we typically think primarily about voting. However, as I would tell my students when I was teaching, voting, as important as it is only one responsibility of citizenship. The strength of our democracy depends on all of us understanding our history and how the government works at every level, becoming informed and thoughtful about local, state, and national issues, getting involved in solving problems in our schools, communities, states, and nationally. Recognizing that the solutions to the complex issues our nation faces today all require compromise. Being willing to think beyond our own needs and wants and to embrace our obligations to the greater good. Finally, I would argue that our democracy, our communities, and our nation would be stronger if all of us volunteered on behalf of others. None of this will occur automatically. We also have to recognize that we are dependent on society, and society depends on us. All of us, parents, elected officials, educators, journalists, and everyone else, must set a good example for our children and for newcomers to this country and work to make this, in Lincoln's words, a more perfect union. But I believe that our schools and colleges have a special responsibility to prepare their students to do so. Educating students about their role in a democracy was one of the original goals of public education in this country, and it should remain so today, as our nation becomes more and more diverse. So I urge you to be bold and creative in educating for citizenship. Make preparing your students for their civic duties just as much a priority as preparing them to succeed in college and in their careers. And I ask you to help your students learn to be problem solvers who can grapple with challenging issues, such as how to improve their schools, homelessness, air and water pollution, or the tensions between police and communities of color. It is critical, of course, that these conversations not be partisan. Solutions to problems can and should be rooted in different philosophies of government. We have to make sure classrooms welcome and celebrate these diverse perspectives. I know from my experience in schools and from talking to my elementary school and middle school daughters that many critical public policy issues are not easy to talk about. So you as teachers need principals and superintendents and school boards to back you up. I know there are teachers and schools around the country doing a good job of this. One such person is Johanna Hayes, a high school social studies teacher from Waterbury, Connecticut, and the 2016 National Teacher of the Year. Johanna is passionate about teaching her students at Kennedy High School about history and about the importance of community service and their obligation to improve the human condition. She points out students want to help, but they need role models to show them how. We need more teachers like Johanna and schools and districts to support them. Some of you might be thinking that you already have so much you want your students to learn, so how could there be time in the school day or year for this? But I would argue that civics shouldn't be an add-on. It can be made a part of every class, not just social studies and history, but reading and writing, science and math. Studying climate change in science class can be broadened and made more relevant by asking students to find out whether their local government is prepared to respond. Math can be made more engaging by having students research the ratio of liquor stores and grocery stores to population in various neighborhoods, and then asking the mayor why that is the case. By getting involved in real issues, students learn that it's not just enough to shout about their disappointments or criticize the ideas of others. They have to offer solutions. They have to work together to advocate for those solutions. They have to push to make sure the solutions are implemented, and they have to understand that change takes time. As a bonus, this type of civic learning can actually prepare students for demanding careers in a globally competitive labor market, because they will learn to think critically, write clearly and persuasively, and work with diverse groups of people. But the biggest and most important outcome of all is that high-quality civic education prepares students to help the nation solve difficult, challenging, complex issues and make it a better, more equitable place to live with genuine opportunity for all. Thank you for all you do to prepare your students to be leaders in making their communities, their country, and the world a better, safer, healthier, more welcoming place for all.
It takes more than pencils, paper, and books to inspire tomorrow's authors. It takes imagination and superpowers. It takes a teacher.
Hello, and thank you to Google for inviting me to be a part of this very important conversation. As the National Teacher of the Year, I have traveled the country and the world and engaged with stakeholders at all levels. These interactions have made my core message even more important. As part of my announcement at the White House this spring, I stated that I will make this year about bringing classrooms into communities and communities into classrooms, creating moments and starting a national conversation about how we can all be better for kids. Those words are more critically important today than they have ever been before. We must all work together in an unprecedented way to improve outcomes for kids. I see this moment in time as a unique opportunity to write our own narrative about the future of our schools. For once, instead of waiting for others to tell us how education should look, we could show them how it really looks. My trips abroad have been the most enlightening experiences to date. These trips have made me so proud of and grateful for the education we provide in this country. My visits reminded me that education is a civil right and reaffirmed my belief that every child has the right to an education. We should all be so proud of the individual contributions we make to this shared vision. These trips have reignited my passion and commitment to my students and this profession. I realized that no matter how well-intentioned education stakeholders are, until we begin to understand how interconnected we are and dependent on each other's input, no meaningful change would ever occur. I never had to think about all of the moving parts working behind the scenes so that I could show up and give everything I had to my students. But traveling and meeting so many different groups of people has reminded me of that. Before I was the National Teacher of the Year, I never fully appreciated all of the different roles and all of the perspectives involved in education. I viewed this profession through my experiences and a single lens. A decade in the classroom was my only point of reference. Too often in education, there's a lack of understanding, and it is incumbent upon all of us to work together and remind each other of how important each group is and how we are all working for the same goals. I began this year with feelings of inadequacy. I knew I didn't know enough about all of the issues facing education. I quickly realized that my only role is to articulate the perspective of the teacher and allow others to articulate their areas of expertise. My lens has broadened, and I see more clearly the importance of all stakeholders. I realize that I only had to master one area, teaching. But education is not just about dedicated teachers and hardworking students. It's everybody. No one person or group owns the monopoly on the challenges in education, and no one group will fix it. We have to work together, to struggle forward together, to reassure students together. Before this year, teaching was very comfortable for me. I felt confident. I knew what I was doing and could often predict what would happen next. I loved the work that I was doing because teaching is what I know. I had a false sense of independence. I really have had to step outside of my comfort zone and begin to develop a deeper understanding and respect for the contribution other stakeholder groups make and show them that their input is valuable. Everyone has a competing agenda, and it is often very difficult for teachers to trust that others are working as hard as we are for our students. But this year, I have met people who are equally as passionate as me and are really advocates for education. But like me, they are only viewing their work through the lens that is familiar to them. Today, I understand how valuable each of these roles is. I used to feel like they just don't get it. They don't know what it's like to be in the classroom. But I am revisiting that position because there are administrators working behind the scenes that balance the budgets and keep schools safe and provide opportunities so that I can wake up every day and do the job that I was born to do, to teach. I don't have to worry about all those things. All I have to do is teach. And I realize they do get it. I've often heard teachers say they wish people would come into their classrooms and see what they do on a daily basis. In the last few months, I have solidified my position that it's equally as important for teachers to see the work that others do. Commissioners, boards of education, and administrators put solid structures and systems in place to support teaching and learning for students, and communities need to know that. I tell my colleagues to go into communities, talk to families, reach out to businesses, engage legislators, involve faith-based communities, build bridges into the communities that we serve. And today, I encourage you to do the same. Engage the communities you serve. Walk a day in the life of other stakeholders who also contribute to the conversation surrounding education. I have found such value in professional networks and critical friends, and we could learn so much from each other. If we truly want for every child in this country to receive a high-quality education and graduate prepared to face the challenges of college, career, and civic life, we have to work together. My gauge is very simple. Whenever I am faced with a difficult decision, I ask myself one question. Is this the type of education I would want for my child? If I can't answer yes to that every single time, then I have to do something differently. Education should not be restricted to our classrooms. It should extend into our communities. We have to talk to people outside of education and begin to understand the reasons behind their concerns, their perceptions, and the decisions that they make. Open up your spaces. Build trusting relationships. Be transparent. We can achieve so much more when we all work together. I have a new appreciation for all of the work that others do in support of education, but that's because I am uniquely positioned to see that. You may have to be a little bit more intentional. We have to do a better job of sharing our stories and our perspectives and working together. The more I travel, the more people I meet, the more I realize that there are so many ways to impact the education of young people and include others in the conversation. My career has been shaped by people who always included me in the conversation. My community has informed every part of my decision-making, and I understand how important it is to engage them in our schools. I have had leaders who taught me about culture and made me feel like it was a privilege to teach. Leaders who made me want to be a part of something bigger. Leaders who made me want to contribute to my school community in a way that had nothing to do with me. There was so much buy-in, and they taught me that. I work for leaders who were true capacity builders and encouraged me to take risks and groom me as a teacher leader. These leaders grounded me in the content and made me revisit my practices and educate myself on the standards in order to address the needs of students and ensure they left me thoroughly prepared. These are the kinds of leaders we need right now. I hope you are all listening. When people feel encouraged, supported, and included in the conversation, they will excel. They will go beyond your expectations and perform at the highest levels. This does not occur when people feel marginalized. I was fortunate to have people that believed in me, that trusted me, that supported me, and gave me a creative space that allowed me to educate children. Today, students are looking for us to be that kind of a leader. I often think about people like my grandmother, who never visited my school because she was very intimidated and did not feel like she belonged there. She relied on and trusted the fact that teachers, administrators, local boards of education, superintendents, policymakers were all doing all that they could to ensure that I was getting the best possible education, because she didn't have the ability or the capacity to advocate on my behalf. I am so grateful to my teachers because everything I learned about school, I learned at school. And there are so many students just like me attending your schools from similar situations, and they are counting on you to be the champions of education. I would encourage you to reflect on your practices. Expand your vision of schools to include the communities. Compile a list of resources available in your community and reach out to a different group to collaborate on various projects that you can include in your classrooms. Seize opportunities to tie your community into your classroom by inviting local business leaders as speakers or guests into your spaces. Whatever you do, just remember, you don't have to do it alone. Let's all work together so that students emerge stronger than ever. Let this online conference provide you with time for thoughtful reflection and leave you with a renewed sense of commitment to the work that educators do. Thank you.
It takes more than brushes, paint, and books to find the bigger picture. It takes talent and a common canvas. It takes a teacher.
Hi, I'm Linda Darling-Hammond, Stanford University Education Professor Emeritus and President of the Learning Policy Institute. And today we're going to talk about what are the effective uses of technology in schools. Clearly there is much wider use of technology all around the globe, and there are a lot of questions about how to use it well. We did a review at Stanford of more than 70 studies about the effective uses of technology for supporting student learning, and found that the most common finding in many studies was that there was no effect. In some big experimental studies, there was the finding that the teacher was about as effective as the technology. However, there are some clear indications that student learning is much enhanced when technology is used in certain ways. So what doesn't work? It doesn't work when kids are just getting an electronic workbook with a set of facts and multiple choice questions and sort of drilling on different skills, phonics or other skills, without engaging with the technology. What does work is when kids are involved in simulations, when they themselves are producing different products, their own blogs and insights and investigations about the material that they're studying, when they're engaged in interactive gaming. There, when we see the proper interaction between the technology, the teacher, and peers, we get large gains in achievement. So as we think about this, we have to kind of think about the digital learning ecosystem, which is about what the student experiences in terms of the task they're facing, in terms of the context in which they're doing the work, and in terms of the supports that are there, and how those actually affect their affective and motivational engagement, as well as their academic learning. And in a very healthy digital learning ecosystem, you'll find that the tasks are engaging and interactive, the support system is there to discuss issues that come up in the learning with other peers and with teachers, that there's opportunity for inquiry, investigation, and the learner to be producing their own work through the use of technology, and as a consequence, substantial gains in achievement. So we're going to hear today from some school leaders who are implementing this kind of work in their districts. Google is releasing a set of impact portraits, which are studies of technology use all around the globe. And we're going to hear from two of the schools that have been involved in the U.S. Impact Portraits. So we're here with Jason Klein, the Assistant Superintendent for Technology in the Maine Township High School District 207 from Illinois, and Valerie Truesdale, who is the Chief Technology Officer in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, North Carolina. Thank you both for being here. These are two districts that are doing very exciting work with technology, and I want to give you an opportunity first to just sort of tell us what you're doing and how that's influencing student learning.
We're real proud of the fact that we had the opportunity to become the first of Google's K-12 partners with Google Apps 8 years ago, and from that, a number of things then fell into place. We are today a one-to-one Chromebook district. Both our students and our teachers are Chromebook users. So the platform is of primary importance to us, and around that collaboration, students with students, teachers with teachers, and of course students with teachers. Really, with that back and forth collaboration that's so easily done through G Suite, the important things in our story are that, coupled with those technology implementations, were these ongoing shifts of improving student learning. And really driving that was PD, the fact that every teacher in our school district has an instructional coaching plan. And during the same period of time, while we've seen our demographics continue to shift in ways that the data would suggest would lower scores, we've seen the opposite. We've seen them stay the same or go up, and that's with more and more kids getting opportunities to do deep learning and advanced placement classes. And the technology really enables a lot of this. It certainly enables real-time feedback, and it enables collaboration, as well as enabling that rich body of resources that the world has to offer, and not a single text that is uniform for everybody and for all tasks in a particular course of study.
And can you give me some examples of the kind of deep learning that kids are engaged in with this set of tools?
Yeah, so the examples, well, one thing I think that's a phrase that's becoming important is this notion of industry standard, and giving kids these opportunities to have real life experiences, both in the school and beyond the school. So a really important focus for us is the work we're doing with college and career counseling, and really helping kids look at what goes on beyond their formal schooling in K-12 and what options they have. And coupled with that is the focus on providing kids with internship opportunities, in addition to hopefully continuing to transform their classroom learning into being more real, more authentic, with kids solving real problems and creating real products. The technology enables that because you start to lose the confines of time and space, right? If I have the internet in my lap, I can connect with other people, I can connect with resources, and very importantly, I can share my products, my creations with the world. The teacher or my classmates are no longer the limited audience that I can speak to. And so I can have this impact on the world while being a young adult, and that will also deepen my learning because that raises my motivation level so intrinsically. And there's other really important pieces. The brain research that our superintendent and our assistant superintendent for curriculum have really been driving us forward for many, many years now and looking at talks about things like gamification and how that can help with skill development. And again, without the technology, it becomes hard to implement strategies like that.
Very exciting. I've seen that in other places, and I'd love to come see it in Illinois.
You're welcome anytime.
Valerie, let's talk about Charlotte-Mecklenburg and what you're doing there.
So we in Charlotte-Mecklenburg started in 2012, Linda, with a strategic plan. Our goal one calls upon us, Team CMS, to transform our schools into places of 21st century learning with personalization. So at that time, none of our schools were 100% wireless, and we had a tall order to begin to build the infrastructure. It took us 2 years to build the infrastructure. We started with G Suite with our teachers, giving them laptops for the first time so that they could plan inspiring lessons. And then we began to put devices in the hands of kids. We call this our digital learning conversion. We emphasize the learning because it's not about the hardware, it's really about the change in the learning, opening up the worldwide classroom to our children. And so now we have Chromebooks over 130,000 in grades 3 through 12. It's been a significant uphill journey. We started in the middle grades and then bled up and bled down in terms of the implementation of devices to make sure that the children have the opportunity to stretch their learning to anywhere in the world, and it's been exciting and fun.
I know it has been. Can you give us an example of one of those kinds of engagements or projects that kids are engaged in?
Sure. We brought Ben Akalik in to assist us in helping to define what are the habits of mind that would create personalized learning. We started with visiting IDEO and bringing in the design process, and then being able to articulate what are those characteristics, such as risk-taking, that we can articulate into what we call our learner characteristics around personalized learning. And so what we find now is that in our schools that are working with PACEs and pathways and playlists, kids are able to target, we might have a broad subject in a classroom, but kids are going about it in different differentiated ways depending on their interest and their points of view, and the devices are a catalyst for that, but the real focus is on the learning.
Very cool. So what are some of the other kinds of interventions that have had to go along with the technology for you? I'll start with you, Valerie, and then come back to Jason.
So two major things. One is professional development that Jason and I were speaking about a while ago, but for us it's also engagement, making sure that we are reaching beyond the classroom. We have two main goals: to increase student engagement during the school day and extend learning beyond the school day. So wherever there are faith partners, community partners, parents, anybody that has internet at a summer program, a before or after school program, we come in and train those folks how to help our kids access digital tools before and after the school day and all summer long, because the contracts we have for extended resources are available 24/7, 365. So we teach our parents, for instance, how do you load game-based math program on your phone so that when you're in the grocery store, your youngster can be looking and doing math while you are going around in the store. Anytime, anywhere learning is not just about a school responsibility, it's a community. So the community engagement has been a hallmark of our transformation.
Awesome. And Jason?
On the student-facing side, I think one of the big transformations is the change in what student assessment looks like. There are so many tools that our teachers have available to them and that they use every day, particularly for formative assessments, to really see what students know and are able to do, and then either provide real-time feedback and or make those adjustments accordingly. I look at the amount of information that students get back in such an actionable way that they can then continue to own the learning and make those adjustments naturally. It's extremely powerful. On the teacher side, it is the professional development, and for us, it's growing teacher leaders. Part of that is the fact that everybody has an instructional coaching plan that they update annually. And we have building instructional coaches that work with staff separate from the evaluation process to really grow and improve instruction. And then from there, what's developed is we have many, many teachers that are certified trainers, whether it's their Google certifications or their Johnson & Johnson Cooperative Learning certifications, and they're leading that professional development for one another and alongside administrators and other leaders.
Wonderful. So I'm going to ask you if you could each share a challenge and a success, because I know there are a lot of obstacles along the way that have to be confronted and, surmounted.
So a challenge remains in any highly diverse school district, ensuring that all students have access and real access to the internet. And this is a success too. We were able last school year to begin a mobile hotspot program with donations from the community in partnership with Sprint. And we're putting hotspots in the hands of students who don't have internet access outside the school day. That's a wonderful starting point. The reality is that the challenge remains because that hotspot, while a lifeline at 3 gigabytes a month of a slower connection, is not equivalent to the student who has a 50 meg connection and can download a terabyte's worth of data a month. And so that becomes a really important instructional and civil rights issue, I think, for us today. And so it's both a challenge and an exciting success.
Yeah. And one that we really have to take up. Of course, the new E-rate program and the re-engagement of the federal government in trying to be sure that bandwidth is available everywhere and that families and children have access is going to be a big part of that solution, but we're going to have to stay vigilant on that. Valerie.
The biggest challenge, again, as Jason was just saying, is exactly that, ensuring our students do have the ability to extend their learning beyond the school day. Scale, we have 2 major questions that are written on my wall. Is it scalable? Is it sustainable? And so to be able to scale learning in the home is a big, big challenge. We too have a Wi-Fi hotspot lending program that has been sponsored by the Library Foundation in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And that's wonderful, but it is a small little drop when the majority of our students are from poverty backgrounds in our school system. So the need for ubiquitous Wi-Fi that we believe is a basic equity right. It's a social justice issue in our community, and so we have a digital inclusion steering team that meets every other week and comes together to push this edge of conversation between the city, the county, the library, the school district, and other funders. And so it is a big challenge to figure out how do we now extend it beyond the school day. One of the biggest successes I think that we've seen is our teachers have an attitude of whatever it takes for our children to learn. So we have 46 schools that have embraced personalized learning, and they are trying to effect a pedagogical shift that is necessary to reach the children wherever they are. And that's a tremendously exciting thing to see, the organic grassroots engagement that's happening from the teacher level bubbling up, and it's truly second order change. It's been rewarding.
So I would love to know a little bit more about what you're seeing in terms of student learning in response to all of this work that you're doing. Jason?
So again, our goal is to measure student learning and improve that, and not really focus on the specifics of the technology. And we've been really excited to see the results come out in some very traditional measures. Up until now, Illinois students have all taken the ACT, so based on that measure, we've seen our scores stay the same or increase despite demographics that might suggest that they would go down. And on the advanced placement tests, we have seen more and more students participating in advanced placement courses, taking the tests, and doing better and better. And those metrics are, again, indicators that the work we're doing is having success for students. Moving forward, the biggest place we want to look is the long-term outputs of what happens to our students beyond their time with us, and we're really drilling into trying to pull that data together and make that a big part of our story.
Valerie, what are you seeing in Charlotte-Mecklenburg?
So we like to look at the performance of our students and their student engagement. We believe that if students are engaged, they stay in school and perform well. We're a very diverse school system, so we're proud that we are scoring above the state in all measures for all demographic areas. We've really been focusing in on our graduation rate. We've moved from 69% to 89.6% since 2010, and an amazing trajectory. We almost hit 90%. We're hoping to make that this year. But the idea is that when kids have exciting things to learn, they come to school.
Well, even with all of these challenges, I have a lot of optimism about our ability to really confront those with leaders like you in the field. Thank you so much for sharing these stories.
It takes more than wires, bolts, and books to explain engineering. It takes BattleBots and a really good cause. It takes a teacher.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this keynote educator panel for Google's EDU On Air 2016. My name is Jenny Magera, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for School District 62 in Des Plaines, Illinois, just north of Chicago. I'm so honored to be here with these exemplary students and their teachers to talk to you today about the amazing things that are happening in our schools. I do want to tell you that just like a good school, we want to make sure we're engaging you as our audience and our students. So what we want to make sure you have a chance to share your ideas and questions. Right below here, where is it, guys? Right down there below the stream, you should see a place for you to ask questions. And I'm going to do my best to get as many in during this panel as possible. Now, something I asked for all of the panelists to do before they came is to think about the theme of today, which is it takes a teacher. And we all agree, teachers have a lot of power in helping shape our future. So what we did was we each took a board and we had to think about what we think it takes a teacher to do. Being a teacher myself, I decided to model it for them, so I'm going to show you what I think it takes a teacher to do. I think it takes a teacher to turn a classroom into a community and a lesson into an adventure. What I'm going to do now is turn it over to these amazing panelists, have them introduce themselves and share with you what they think it takes a teacher to do.
Hello, my name is Rafrance Davis, and I am the Executive Director of Professional and Digital Learning for Lufkin ISD in East Texas. And I think that it takes a teacher to help students transform their dreams into realities and into even bigger dreams.
My name is Andrew Adams, and I'm a freshman at Lufkin High School. I think it takes a teacher to inspire students to go the extra mile. It's not upside down. Okay. To go the extra mile and do more than what is expected.
My name is Kevin Brookhauser, and I'm a teacher at York School in Monterey, California. And to me, it takes a teacher to develop future problem solvers.
My name is Maria Stanica, and I used to be a student at York School, and I am currently a college freshman at UC Berkeley. I think that it takes a teacher to encourage students to take risks in pursuing what they love.
Thanks, everyone. So I can't wait to dig in and learn more. You know, Maria, if you don't mind, I'd love to start with you. When I saw your "It takes a teacher" quote about taking risks, as a teacher, I love that. In schools, a lot of times teachers are afraid to take risks because when you're doing something that you don't know how to do, it might mean that you might make a mistake or fail. So can you tell us a little bit, or do you have a story about how Mr. Brookhauser made you feel safe to fail and how you were able to take risks as a high school student in his classroom?
Well, Mr. Brookhauser was my sophomore English teacher, and he implemented this project called the 20% Project. And I really loved it because there were only really two stipulations. It was have a target audience and have a final product at the end. And that left us with a lot of room to really explore and figure out what we wanted to do, and there wasn't really a mold that we had to fit. And I really, really loved that. And what was really cool is that once we had to come up with ideas, it was amazing to see the range that people came up with. I mean, no one had the same idea. Someone made an app for a graphing calculator that would disable everything else on the phone so that you could use it during a test, but the teachers wouldn't be afraid that you were cheating. People worked with therapy dogs. Someone wrote a book. Somebody composed music. So it was really, really incredible to see that creativity. And I personally made a YouTube channel about books, and I'd been toying with the idea for a while, and I was just so afraid that, I would fail at it, I wouldn't have enough time to do it. But because I had that classroom time to really pursue it, and I was encouraged to keep going because it was a project that I had committed myself to, I was really able to grow the channel, even though it was slow at first. And I started out with maybe 20 subscribers, and I now have over 2,000. And I have continued to make videos, and I never would have done that if I hadn't had that project, and if Mr. Brookhauser hadn't encouraged me to take that risk and put myself out there and start making videos.
Wow, that's amazing. I know as many of us full-size people are the adults, we would love to have a channel with 2,000 followers. That's incredible, Maria. And, Kevin, Mr. Brookhauser, shall I call you since your student's here? Tell us more about how you felt safe enough to give your students that freedom to take risks and fail. As a teacher, sometimes we feel that there are all these stipulations that we have to follow, and we're always answering to the higher powers. So as a high school teacher, what made you feel comfortable to do this, and what were the challenges in creating this opportunity for your students?
Thanks, Jenny. I'll start by saying I didn't feel totally comfortable when I started it. I was a little nervous. I was trying something new. Luckily, I had a lot of support from my school. We're at an amazing school that provides that kind of autonomy for teachers. But really what emboldened me was when I launched it, the kinds of projects that I saw students like Maria take on. As a teacher, when I design learning experiences, I tend to create a rubric and have an idea of what success is. But when I hand it over to the students, they blow away my expectations and crack the lid off my rubrics.
I love it. Break out of the rubric. Think outside the box, literally. So Andrew, you were, Mr. Brookhauser and Maria talked about how when he gave them that opportunity to take risks, they kind of went a little bit further than they expected. They got more followers than they thought. They wrote books. You said in your It Takes a Teacher that teachers can encourage kids to go that extra mile. Can you tell us a little bit more about how your teachers at Lufkin are empowering you to do that, and what are they doing to make you become a better version of yourself?
In Lufkin, we have a lot of amazing teachers. Last year I had a teacher named Mrs. Tutt. She helped us to do better than we would have expected. She gave us challenges. She gave us harder things than we had in the past. And she really prepared us for high school because she helped us in so many different ways because she was an amazing teacher. One time we had to write an 8-page paper, and I thought it was going to be impossible, but I ended up doing it, and it ended up really well. All our teachers at Lufkin are amazing and try to make us go that extra mile and do more than what is expected of us. As I said in my it takes a teacher thing.
That's great. And Refrans, as you were saying in your, It Takes a Teacher, and also working with all of the teachers at Lufkin, that you're really supporting others. You're helping them to learn and use their craft of teaching to be that inspiration to their students. So as the executive director there and thinking about what you're doing, what do you see your role is in your job in inspiring teachers to then inspire students?
I think of my role as I'm more of the cheerleader on the side for the teachers. I'm always amazed and excited every time I hear about our teachers doing new things. This week has been all about Google Hangouts with other teachers across the country. One of our specialists has actually spent a great deal of time connecting classrooms in Lufkin with classrooms in Canada, which for our students who had never stepped outside of our zip code, that's a pretty big deal. But at the same time, we also have a responsibility to listen to what students want. So aside from cheering for teachers, I get the opportunity to work with, talk to, and listen to our students and plan really amazing experiences for them as well.
Great, thank you. So I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. We are at Google right now live from New York. It's Google EDU on Air. But what I want to think about a little bit is the technology. We're using so many devices in the classroom these days, or they're creating new opportunities. Just before this panel, we were all playing with the new Google Daydream virtual reality headset. So now that there's so many more tools in the classroom, what are you most excited about? And being a teacher now, what do you think is different than it used to be, let's say even 10, 15 years ago? Mr. Brookhauser, Kevin, can we start with you?
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about technology in education, as all of us are here. I think there's a risk with technology. We tend to think that students can get totally consumed by technology. But in the classroom, if we think of them as creativity tools, there's really nothing that our students can't produce with these, inexpensive pieces of hardware and an internet connection. I'm just really inspired by what they're able to produce now that they couldn't produce in the past.
So it's really not about the devices, but about the ability that we're giving them to become creators and amplifying their imagination?
Yeah, right. I mean, previously, you had to ask someone's permission to write a book or to produce a video. You needed to raise money. Now you just do it on your own.
Awesome. Actually, right before we jumped on this panel, we created a Twitter account for Andrew for the very first time. And he was laughing because he immediately got 8 followers right away. And that's kind of a reach. This is a pretty empty room. And we create a Twitter account immediately. You're building that authentic audience. Andrew, I actually want to turn to you a little bit because speaking of technology, a lot in the classroom has changed. And if you look at what we're using to learn, things are different. I saw you have your devices here, but when you pulled things out of your jacket today when we were getting ready for this panel, you had your iPhone in one pocket, but what did you have in your other pocket?
I had a calculator.
Can you show us what you had?
Yes, it was here. It's here.
What is it?
It's a calculator. It's a TI-83.
Now this was the same calculator that I used when I was a kid, the TI-83 Plus. So there are some things, you want to hold it up for everyone to see? Yeah, throwback. But I wanted you to bring out that prop because I think it brings another great wonder that I have, which is so much about the classroom is changing in terms of the tools, the devices, our discussions. But what about school do you think should stay the same? What about school do you think shouldn't change and we should hold on to it and try and honor? Franz, do you want to share something?
When it comes to school, I think that the one thing that I've learned coming into Lufkin, we are a community, we're rural East Texas, and the connectivity that I've had in other school districts did not exist in Lufkin. We don't have devices for every single student. Some of our kids go home and do not have Wi-Fi. But what I found was how much the community is involved with our classrooms, how many experiences that are hands-on. Our students, gardening at 2nd grade and working with farming community to talk about what they're growing and why they're growing it. So I think that those personal community connections are exceptionally important, and we can't forget that as much technology as we add to our schools.
Maria, as you're a freshman in high school, or sorry, I just demoted you 4 grades. You're a freshman in college now at UC Berkeley, yes? So, you've gone through the great transition from K-12 to college. Can you share something that your teachers did to prepare you for higher education? When you first became that first classroom and walked in as a college freshman, what did you see from York that prepared you?
I think what York teachers really did for me was that they didn't underestimate any of us, and they really treated us like adults, even though we weren't yet. And I always really appreciate that with teachers because when you underestimate a student and you say, "Oh, I'm going to give you this because you can't handle anything higher," you're not asking them to grow at all. And I really feel like York teachers pushed me further than I thought I could go. And that really prepared me for college because that's what they do. They expect that you are going to grow and you're going to do things that you haven't done before. And because I'd already done some of them in high school, that was really helpful starting college.
And the same question for you, Andrew, you are a freshman in high school, yes? So you just moved from middle school to high school, and so you just underwent a transition as well. Was there anything that your middle school teachers did to prepare you for high school? And is there anything that you hope your high school teachers will do for you so you can be ready to go to a great university as well?
Once again, I want to say about how my teachers in middle school, they always pushed us to do more than what we were expected to do. We used lots of technology in the classroom. We learned new things. We learned so much. And that helped us prepare for high school, and it made the transition really pretty smooth because it helped us, we know what we are doing. And now in high school, I hope my teachers will do their best to also push me and teach me new things more than what's expected of them, just as much as they want me to do more than what's expected of me.
I love that. So you're saying, you know, hey, teachers, you want me to go above and beyond. I need you to go above and beyond too. Dig it. So Kevin, you know, you and Rafranz both go above and beyond. I've seen you, I've followed your work for many, many years and have been so impressed and inspired by both of you. And I think that a lot of times people see educators like the both of you and we think it's easy. Like you just wake up every day and you're this inspirational human being who walks around and always is thinking of great things. But I know that it's scary sometimes and that there are challenges. So can you share some of the scary moments for you when you were taking risks and trying new things?
I guess I can start. So this past summer, we actually hosted a student hackathon and a couple of student summer maker events. And that was scary for me. I do not have a programming background. I had never thrown a hackathon in my life. I had never thrown an event like that in my life. I didn't even know how we were going to provide the devices for our students. And we ended up pulling it off. And it was scary, and my palms were sweaty. And I mean, it was probably one of the most stressful events that I have ever done, but at the same time, that it came from a reason. It was from, I heard a story about Andrew, actually. I was talking to his mom and heard a story about he and his friends designing games in the bedroom. And then talking to our high school kids, robotics kids who were, well, we have a hackathon. And so that was kind of my, you know what, it doesn't matter how afraid you are, Rafranz, you have to make this happen and you have to do it. And I think that we have to come from that space where what we feel about our ability has to be less than what our students want to do, and we have to take those risks. And the outcome is always going to be great, even if there is struggle.
Thank you.
When I first started teaching, I really thought my job was to transfer the knowledge that I had in my brain and put it into my students' brains. And then the internet showed up, and it became clear to me that I did not have this exclusive access to knowledge that my students didn't have anymore. And so that was kind of scary because it threatened my whole identity as a teacher. But as I pursued it even further, it got really exciting because I saw that my role had shifted toward one that was not teaching just knowledge, but really developing skills and teaching how to learn. And I had to do that with my students at the same time because we're constantly learning all these new tools, and I think we're only at the beginning of the huge transformation technology is going to have on education. But I think it's going to be a really exciting time to be a teacher in the future.
I can't agree more. And I want to turn it now over to the teachers, the educators who are watching out there on the interwebs. I think I read somewhere that we have 50,000 educators from around the globe tuning in right now. So no pressure, guys. Hi. And one of the questions that one of those educators shared was, what is the best way to excite and inspire teachers who are resistant to some of these ideas, these changes? And I want to use the word resistant, but also maybe fearful. Maybe they're not resisting because they don't believe in it. Maybe they're also scared. So a little bit of column A, column B. I want to start with the students for this one. So if you've experienced the magic of teachers who believe in you and push you to new lengths and give you chances to take risks. So if you were going to talk to that teacher who was scared to do that, what would you say to them, Maria?
I think that being resistant to change, I mean, you just can't, because everything is going to change. And technology gives you so many more opportunities in the classroom. I mean, you can find, let's say you're in class and you can't remember something, instead of sitting there for 15 minutes and having this short stopped discussion because no one can think of whatever you were talking about, you can find that. You have that information at your fingertips, and you can go further because you have that information and you can think critically. In addition, I think that because we have this access to all this knowledge from technology, you are pushed to think more critically because some of that information might not be true, and you have to be able to decipher that and figure it out. And I think that poses an even greater challenge.
Beautiful. Can I borrow you for a semester from Berkeley to come to Chicago? You could do a little press tour for us about technology.
I'd love that.
Andrew, there was actually a specific follow-up question to this one for you from the audience, and they want to know, how do your teachers use technology to help kids like yourself go beyond their limitations? So can you share some examples or stories?
Well, last year and this year, a lot of my teachers are using technology to help us expand our knowledge and expand our learning ability. But for example, last year we had a teacher named Mrs. Lovejoy. She was our science teacher, and every time we had a test, she had these little remotes, and she would have the thing on the board and like the question or whatever on the board, and she would let us use the remotes to answer. But the best part was we were allowed to work together as if it was she tried to introduce reality to us, because in the real world, whenever we're working, whenever we have a job, then we're going to be working together, not alone, because that's what she said about change. The world is changing, and it's changing to where teamwork and participation skills are valued more than individual understanding, because as a team you can get more finished, you can get more work finished, and you can have a higher quality of work as well. But back to the technology, whenever one of us forgot or couldn't understand how to do it, the other ones would help, and we were able to collaborate, and we learned so much by that.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And I agree, like as teams, as adults, we always are working in teams, and that's where the best things happen. Kevin, someone had asked about 20% time and 20% projects. We know you literally wrote the book, The 20 Time Project. And a lot of school administrators are worried when they walk into a classroom and seeing it happen. Oh my God, all these kids are just playing and building things. What is happening? So how might a teacher explain to their school administrator and get that buy-in to give that freedom to their kids?
Yeah. Well, first I just want to say that Andrew nailed it with the collaboration and getting over fear. One of the reasons a lot of teachers are so afraid is because we kind of have an isolated profession. We work behind these closed classroom doors but now in the era of social media, we can connect with other teachers, and that can give us the courage to do things, to take risks that we know are the right risks to take, but can be scary. One thing that I've found is that I don't think there's been very much pushback at all from administrators, as long as there's enough communication. I think if you want to give your students autonomy, provide more project-based learning, if you do a little research, reading up. One of my favorite books is called Drive by Daniel Pink, which really provided the kind of background research that I needed to go to my administrator to move forward with this kind of project. So that helped me out a great deal.
Refrans, I have a question for you. You're one of the most connected educators that I know out there, and you're such a strong voice in getting teachers to share their story and to work with one another. How might a teacher who is living in an innovation island on their own, they're like the lone innovator in their school, or they feel like they're at a silo and they want to be inspired, but they don't have Mr. Brookhauser next door or you as their executive director, how can they connect with others to do two things? One, to get inspired, but also to hear representative, diverse voices from people who look like them, from similar backgrounds, because we've seen, especially in educational technology, there is a lack of diversity and representation of voices. So how can we find those voices that speak to our needs?
For me, that voice when I was, coming up in the field was you. I used to watch you, and I watched you do this event last year, and I was so inspired by that. I think that we have a responsibility Twitter is so open, and the hashtags are there. If you hashtag EdChat, you hashtag Google for EDU, or quite a few of us who share on this panel, you're bound to find someone that inspires you. When there's an educational event, I guarantee you there might be 30,000 people there, but there's a Twitter hashtag. Look at it and find people that you have never met, find people that you would love to hear from, and that's for me has been, I think, one of the most important pieces is finding those people and really, and I keep saying finding finding those people, which is sort of like defining the word with the word, but really looking to people that move you and motivate you. I mean, between you, Jose Vilson, and the Educolor hashtag, a lot of teachers of color who are out there and are kind of voiceless in a lot of our schools. You just have to get on the platform. And one of the biggest fears with teachers, of course, is jumping on social media because it's such a scary thing. But I think that times have changed, that the scariness, we have to kind of step outside of ourselves and do it because it's going to make us better.
I want to do a quick time check to see how much time we have left. About how much longer do we have for this panel? 5 more minutes? Okay, great. Let me ask one more question before we close it up. When we bring technology into the classroom, I'm a chief technology officer, so technology is literally in my title. A lot of people are concerned, or perhaps a proponent of, that it's going to teacher-proof the classroom. We see programs out there that seem to take the role of the teacher and provide that instruction. How do all of you, and anyone can jump in here, how do you feel about that concept that technology teacher-proofs the classroom? How would you respond to that?
I want to say that that is not true, because a teacher is, you can't make a teacher a robot. A teacher is someone who inspires and someone who shares life lessons and someone who not only teaches the subject matter but teaches children how to mature and how to become better people. A teacher is more than just a robot. A teacher has responsibilities that they should fulfill, and that includes improving the students and helping them to set high goals and take risks and use technology and to change the world, because that's what teaching is about.
I think we need to leave it at that. Everyone's like, mic drop. Ooh. Thank you, Andrew. Wow. On that note, we want to thank everyone so much for joining us. And we have one more little gift for you this winter season, or if you're watching in Australia, this summer season. We wanted to leave with a tip. And all of these educators and their students brought a final word of advice to you to bring back to your classrooms on Monday. So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed your time here. My final tip is continue to watch Google EDU on Air. Go back through the chat, the live stream, the hashtags, so that you can see these tips and many more. Maria, why don't we start with you?
My tip is that I really think teachers should encourage open and interactive discussions in the classroom. I think that's really important because it supports your students into becoming critical thinkers and idea generators, and it just helps them be good students and good life people.
My tip is to be fearless. I think if you get connected on these social media, you'll find that there's an army of people who are there to back you up. And if someone provides you pushback when you're doing the right thing, don't let the bozos get you down.
I want to send a message to teachers, and that message is to respect students. And I mean this, I don't mean don't teach. I mean,
you got it.
Yeah, I froze. Whenever you respect students, they will want to respect you. And whenever you treat your students well, they will want to treat you well. And they will mature when you respect them, because they will become better people every day.
Preach it, brother.
Woo!
I am just so happy to be sitting by you. My advice is to listen to and plan with your students. Don't just plan for them. That is incredibly important, because the work that we do is for those children that are in our buildings every day.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you had a great time. Don't forget that this was a 24-hour event, starting conversations, continuing them, about how we can innovate in our classrooms to make education better for kids around the world. But you're surrounded by educators in your own learning environment. So sit down, start a positive conversation, try something, take a risk, put these ideas into action, and you can make your schools better places as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you online. See you next year.
It takes more than beakers, scales, and books to make sense of science. It takes an entrepreneurial spirit and a business plan. It takes a teacher.
Hi everyone, welcome to Education on Air. I'm Jenny Tolan, I'm a former 5th grade math teacher, and today I work on the Chromebooks for Education team.
And I'm Prachi Banthia, and I work on the Google Classroom and G Suite for Education team.
Today, we're excited to announce some new tools and features that expand Google for Education to students at every stage of their education.
Technology can help streamline a classroom, foster communication between teachers and parents, and enable a better experience for graduating students.
Over the past few years, we've seen many students achieve and create with Chromebooks. Today, I want to show you Chromebooks tailored to students of all ages. We have Chromebooks now with flip capability, so you can use them as a tablet. We have many Chromebooks with touch capability, so you can navigate your screen through touch. We have Chromebooks with 180-degree hinge, so students can carry them more easily without breaking the device. We also have Chromebooks that are super rugged with rubber bottoms, so they're more drop and spill proof. Finally, we have Chromebooks that are super small and lightweight for different size hands. And these Chromebooks can operate as both a tablet and a laptop with flip and touch. As more students learn with Chromebooks, we heard from teachers that a challenge remained. Sometimes the mere act of logging in could waste precious learning time. As a former teacher, I know how precious that time can be. So today we're excited to announce that we've expanded Chromebook logins to allow for integrations that make logging in super easy. The first to integrate this year was Clever with Clever Badges. Clever Badges allow students to log into learning software simply by holding up a badge to the Chromebook camera. Since its introduction, over 100 districts now use Clever Badges with Chromebooks. Badges are giving countless instructional minutes back to teachers and empowering students to take ownership over their own learning. A second integration is by Netherlands-based Cloudwise with Picture Login. Picture Login lets students choose a series of pictures to make up their own personal password. Once logged in, the students have access to their full G Suite and Google for Education accounts. Students are also automatically logged into other connected services, such as Google Classroom. If teachers want, they're able to change the password if needed. With new form factors, lightweight touch devices, and now easy logins, Chromebooks have expanded online learning to students of all ages.
As students progress in their education, we know it's important for students to have support from their teachers in school, but also from their parents and guardians at home. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that we're making it even easier for guardians to have access to email summaries of student work in Classroom. Guardians will no longer need to have a Google account in order to receive Classroom email summaries. We are excited to see more guardians join in so that students can be supported wherever they go. We've heard from parents what an incredible tool Guardian Summaries have been this school year. One parent who uses it for his son says, "The daily update is really helpful, not only in following up on my son's homework, but also in having a dialogue with him around what he learns." For our graduating students, we want to make sure that our students are able to look back on their digital schoolwork even after they leave school. We're excited to share that early next year, we'll be launching a new tool that helps students with this transition. Students will be able to copy their emails and Drive files from their G Suite for Education account to any other Google account before their accounts are deleted. Although this tool will be available early next year, administrators can take action today by adjusting their admin console settings based on how the tool best fits their needs. We know that protecting student privacy and data is critical for schools. Schools that have enabled Drive sharing domain limitations will not be able to copy Drive files to an outside account. Schools should also know that any document that has been marked no download or copy will not be copied. From their first days of kindergarten to their final step at graduation, students can use technology to tap into the world of information, develop critical skills to become our future scientists, novelists, leaders, and explorers. We hope you're as excited as we are about these new features. To stay up to date with future product announcements and to hear inspiring school stories, check out the Google for Education blog.
Thank you for joining us for Education on Air. We hope you enjoy the rich lineup of breakout sessions.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rochelle, Director of Product Management for Google for Education. Thanks so much for joining this year's Education on Air. We're hoping that this is an opportunity for you all to connect and to discuss the future of education and technology and to learn from your peers. We know it's a great opportunity for us to learn more from you about how technology can be used better in the classroom and for education and learning. We're hoping that this event is a great opportunity for you all to connect and to discuss the future of education and technology. We know it's an opportunity for us to learn more from you. We love to see the way you're using Google technologies in the classroom. For example, Google Expeditions. We hope you feel like it gives you superpowers to take your students to faraway places, but from the comfort of your own classroom using Google Virtual Reality. We also love the way Google Classroom is used. It's used by over 20 million students and teachers actively to improve the assignment workflow, which is usually something that's very hard, and we're hoping it makes it much easier and gives you more time to actually teach. Or Chromebooks, which are now the most popular device in education in the US because it's easy to use and it's easy to set up for both teachers and students. So please continue to give us feedback before and after these sessions. That's how we learn, that's how we make better products for you, the teacher, to make learning better for the student. Enjoy the sessions and thank you again for everything you do.
Thank you for joining Education on Air. Now it's time for the breakout sessions. There are over 100 sessions from educators across the globe, so there is a lot to choose from. For the sessions you can't catch live, they'll all be available to watch on demand as recordings after the event. In a few moments, you'll be redirected back to the Education on Air agenda page, where you can see all of the breakout sessions. You'll notice that sessions have been organized by the audience that may be most interested. We have tracks for teachers, IT and administrators, school leaders, or anyone in the community. You can also filter by time, theme, product, country, or language. The website will indicate which sessions are currently live. To watch a session, click on it and scroll over to the Watch Now button. And that's it. You're in. Don't forget to ask questions using the live Q&A feature below the video stream during the breakout sessions. Thank you again for being a part of Education on Air.